Oh man. Okay. So to everyone, so the channel has blown up by a couple hundred subscribers since the last video. The last video I did a message to Republicans, conservatives, and I know that because this is this next video after that one came out, that YouTube is notifying all of you for sure that we have a new video. This will probably be the second video you ever watch on this channel. So I just wanted to take a minute and talk about what that last video was and what it meant. And I want to do that with my friend Shepard, because we both, I think, came from kind of that same background, that same place.
Heck, I was treasurer of my local Republican Party at one point. I was a card-carrying member, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, and so I guess I wanted to clear the air in my own conscience first by saying that the thing that I didn't make clear in that video is that transition, that thought process, where I started to see flaws in the founder's plan, and I slowly over a long period of time saw those flaws grow and stretch and exacerbate, and I saw how the government treated people that no longer consented to its rule. And this was not a slow process by any means, but I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that moment that I walked you through in that video was absolutely a genuine one. That was me basically just giving you my insides as it actually happened about 10 years ago. And that's really the only thing I wanted to come clean on, guys, is that the only thing inauthentic about that video was that it was about 10 years ago when I went through that. And what is eerily, once you have stepped outside of that idea of government, once you know how your consent is supposed to function and how the government ignores it, it changes how you see everything. You see the cycles. It's like a wheel. Things just come back around and around and around. Like we are doomed to repeat this history. And until you're outside of it, you don't see it turning. And the stuff that happened at the Capitol that I talked about in that video, and the fervor and emotion that I displayed in that video was just me channeling myself from 10 years ago. Because at the time, 10 years ago, there was some other set of things that were challenging me in the exact same way. And so I was just trying to connect this turning of the wheel in that video. What do you think, Shepard?
For me, it wasn't an overnight thing either. And I talked to some people who say, oh, just all of a sudden, ever since I was born, I've been able to see the light, or all of a sudden I had this moment and now I can see the light. But for me, it was a long time. And there were a lot of things. I was a cop for 10 years. I carried a gun for America. And I was just so proud to be a gun-toting police Republican conservative. And I really thought that was what was right, and that was the way to go. And maybe it is, but the peace I have found since then, since I have kind of looked into things a little bit more deeply and said everything I do in life, I say, well, is that true? If I say to myself, well, I can't even do 2 push-ups. Well, is that true? Or could I do 2 push-ups? Could I maybe do a few more? And when I re-examine those questions, go, yeah, you know what? I actually can think more deeply in this case. And so for me, it was a slow process, but boy, it feels good to... What are those glasses? You know when you're at the gas station and you're trying to read the screen, and if you're wearing a certain kind of glasses, polarized or non-polarized or something, you can't see the digits that show up? And then if you take your glasses off, you can see them clearly. For me, it's kind of like that. It's a lens through which I see the world. I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that before I put these on or took them off, whatever the case is.
And there were several people in the comments, and I'm super proud and excited and humbled by the comments that I got in that video. There were people that were genuinely considering the power of their personal consent and their ability to revoke it for the first time.
That's brave.
It's amazing. It's powerful. It's world and life changing. And that's the moment once you get there and you realize that it's up to you if you are bound by this insane mess of that is called the federal government of the United States of America. It is up to you if you are bound by it. There is no such thing as a social contract. There is no such thing as tacit approval to being ruled by this system. All of that is like socialistic nonsense that's just been layered onto you, likely from public schools since birth. And once you're able to just step outside of that, even just as a thought experiment, guys, like I'm not even expecting you to just be on board after one stupid YouTube video that I made. Look, if I do nothing else than to get you to just attempt the thought experiment that I posed to you at the end of that video when I said, look, if you don't believe me, if you think that this government actually derives its just powers from your consent, just try revoking it sometime. See what happens. If you even just do that as a thought experiment, you don't have to buy into anything I'm saying. Do your own research, do your own reading, do your own thinking about how consent actually works in every other area of your life, and then wonder maybe why this one area, this political area, somehow functions totally differently than your consent does and ever. If you just do that, just as a random, thought experiment to see if this wacko on YouTube is wrong, then that's all I ask. Because I think
I'm a little bit of a
go ahead.
I'm a little bit of a contrarian, and I like to argue and I like to poke holes in other people's thoughts and ideas. And that was my first step. Is I'd hear something and I'd be like, no, that's ridiculous. You've got to have a strong central government, or you're not going to be able to fight off the Canadians or Chinese or whomever I forget who I was scared of back 12 years ago, whoever it was. And I said that, I thought, I'm going to prove you wrong. And then I look into it and I couldn't. So I think that questioning everything, like looking at Patrick and looking at me and saying, these guys are full of crap and we are going to prove it. Awesome. Do it. Sure be easier for us if we could go back to what we believed in before or prove us wrong. This is not the easiest path.
That's exactly what I did. Look, I was a Republican for a large portion of my life. I watched Bill O'Reilly every day. I went to the Glenn Beck rallies called, one of them was Restoring Hope. One was Restoring Love. They were these amazing events where everybody got pumped up and voted Republican. Like I was there. That was me. And then some guy came along and did what I just tried to do for you guys, which was just say, hey, here's a thought experiment. Here's how your consent works. Where do you think the authority of this government actually comes from? And then I went looking to find the source of that authority that I was taught was the government and the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. You'll realize it just isn't there. And all I'm doing is asking you to go looking and go actually find it. It is a mass superstition. And once you see it, it's like the two-way mirrors, but once you put the light on your side, you can see through it. You'll see the gun on the other side of that. You'll see the gun of the government that's always been sort of invisible behind that mirror pointed right at you just to get you to do what you're told, just so they can continue to extract tax from you like you're some cow on their ranch. That's what it's actually about.
And to clarify, you're not talking about like the sovereign man thing.
No. I'm just talking about the sovereign man thing uses the laws and the documents and everything that the government uses just to try and prove the government wrong with their own papers, with their own documents.
And you're taking this to the 30,000 foot view and looking at it philosophically. At least that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, I'm standing on the founders when they said that the government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. That means that all the documents they wrote, all the pieces of paper they scribbled on, don't mean jack shit unless you give them your personal, individual, continual consent. And that goes for anything. That goes for the government. That goes for the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. That goes for all of the laws and maritime laws that the sovereign men talk about. If you don't consent to those, they don't matter either. It's what you consent to. You have a right to exist right where you are on your own property, to live and to have relationships with your friends and family with nobody over you that you don't consent to. You have that right. You, as a human that exists, that is your inherent right.
But if the Constitution says something clearly, like you choose to live in Texas, if the Constitution of the U.S. government and the Constitution of Texas, if you don't like those, then, I mean, that was one of my questions is when I was first looking into this is like, if you don't like it, then why are you sticking around an area that you're bound by these things?
Stephen says, whenever the government becomes destructive to our rights, it is the right of the people to alter or end that government. I wrote a document in it wasn't just me, it was a bunch of people helped me. If you go to notgovernor.com, there's a big green button link at the top. It is the Declaration of Individual Independence. And it takes the Declaration of Independence and it couches it in what I think are the much more valid terms of I and me. And it lists the abuses and usurpations of the government over the years. And it really lists them. And a lot of people helped put a lot of work into helping me think of them all, because there is a lot of abuses and usurpations. And when you read those words, the words that we were brought up to respect as this pivotal first time in the history of the world moment, this Declaration of Individual Independence, and you hear it used in individual terms, I swear to you, the power is like 10x. It is just one of the most powerful things that I ever read. Like, even to this day, I go back and I read it and I tear up. It's just, please go check it out.
What was the website again?
Right now it's on notgovernor.com, notgovernor.com. There's a big yellow button at the top that will link you to the Google Doc. It's been there for years now, open for anyone to comment if they find issues, spelling, grammar, things, things that people have disagreed with, stuff like that. And it has really been refined by a large group of people over time, and it keeps getting better. So I would definitely...
Awesome.
So to the new people this is probably the second time you've ever seen my face, I just wanted to say those few things. And then the last thing I'd like to say to you is just an open invitation to any of you to continue the conversation in private or in public with me. If you disagree with me, you're welcome to disagree with me in a private conversation on Voice. You're welcome to come on the show and prove me wrong in front of everybody. I love that. If you agree with me, or if you liked the video and you think it changed something for you, you don't even, I have no expectations. You can leave a comment on that video. You can private message me. You can come on our Discord server and talk to me. You can come on the show and we can talk through it. And if you have any additional questions, again, like open door policy, because I was there. I was where you are. And I made that video, thinking about, like, if I could send something back in time to myself 10 years ago, what would I want to say to myself? And that was that video. And that's why I got kind of teared up in that video. I apologize for it, but I really was trying to channel that. Okay.
Yeah, the search for truth is powerful stuff. Like, this is something that if we're going to get passionate about something, I think, I don't know, maybe our kids' future and the future of this place where we live, this great land mass. I think it might kind of sort of be worth getting passionate about. And thanks to everybody that does, even if people don't agree with me. Like, I'm grateful for anybody who gets passionate about it and throws out some good ideas and says, hey, do these stick? It's a good thing.
Yep. And I love these conversations. Being open and excited about these conversations is what started me and led me down the philosophical learning journey that 10 years ago that I started on. So I'm definitely, I want to help and support you guys on your own journeys. Okay. So there, I said my piece to the new people. Welcome to the channel. What you're going to see, as YouTube probably randomly recommends other videos on this channel, you're probably going to see some street activism where we defy government laws, like it's illegal to feed the homeless in Texas, and so we go and we break that law flagrantly, and we carry guns while doing it to keep the cops from stopping us while we feed the homeless. There's some videos on that. There's a lot of videos about current events, and there's a lot of videos about philosophical, finer debate points where we actually go into some of, not just what, like, things that the founders thought about, but we go to a lot of the stuff that we talk about is like first principle philosophies that were developed by Aristotle and Socrates. And, you know, that's a lot of what we talk about on this channel. And we talk about things like the non-aggression principle. And so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is the last video you saw was an intro. And now you don't have to wait for me to create 6 more years of videos on where to go next. It's already there. I've been doing it for 6-7 years. So all the other videos you're going to get on this channel is that stuff. And Shepard here has his own channel, and he's got a lot of great content for sort of like the intro level. Not intro level. You talk about some deep stuff. What am I saying? But Shepard, what's your channel?
It is Shepard Thinks. Go into YouTube and look for Shepard Thinks. That's where you'll find it. And then I have a radio show podcast called Let's Think. So what we're doing tonight, I just love. We're thinking. Like, that is so fun. I know it's not everybody's hobby, but for me, it's just a fun thing, especially when I'm proven wrong about something, or I learn something new and I'm like, holy cow, I really thought that. You're right. I love that feeling.